All right, so today we're going to be looking at some box office numbers, specifically for Venom, The Last Dance. We've got reports from different markets, and everyone's trying to figure out if this movie is a hit or a flop. Who knew numbers could be so dramatic, right?
Well, the thing about Venom, The Last Dance, is it's really reflecting some larger trends, especially in the film industry, when it comes to superhero movies in particular.
Okay, interesting. So, to kick things off, it looks like Venom, The Last Dance, snagged a pretty respectable $175 million opening weekend worldwide. That's actually not too far off from what Venom Let There Be Carnage brought in, which I find kind of surprising considering how the box office has been struggling. Is there even such a thing as a guaranteed hit these days?
Well, the truth is, superhero movies haven't been performing quite as well recently. I'm sure you're familiar with the whole superhero fatigue thing.
Oh, for sure. I think a lot of us are feeling a little burnt out on all the superhero movies coming out, but wouldn't that mean Venom should be underperforming compared to the last one?
Well, that's where things get interesting. While Venom, The Last Dance did match its predecessor globally. When you look at the North American market specifically, the opening weekend brought in $51 million. Now, on surface, that might not sound bad.
Yeah, $51 million seems like a pretty good haul for a single weekend.
True, but you have to look at it in context. That figure is much lower than what industry experts were initially predicting, and it's significantly less than what the previous Venom movie made on its opening weekend.
Now that you mention it, I do remember hearing that the projections were higher. So there are a couple of things at play here. Maybe it's not just superhero fatigue in general, but also a bit of Venom fatigue as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a possibility of that. It's a pattern you see sometimes. With film trilogies in particular, audiences are all excited for the first movie, maybe even more excited for the second. But by the third movie, the novelty can wear off a little bit. The storylines might feel repetitive. People aren't as invested in the characters. There's actually a name for this phenomena: diminishing returns. And you see it happen with all kinds of movies, not just superhero movies. For example, the Matrix trilogy, which was groundbreaking at the time, but each film saw a decline in box office performance. It kind of suggests this natural ebb and flow of how engaged audiences are as a story unfolds over multiple films.
Okay, so it's not necessarily time to completely write Venom off just yet.
That's right. And this is where things get even more interesting. If you look at the international market, Venom, The Last Dance, actually did incredibly well, especially in China. The opening weekend there raked in a massive $46 million. That's the best opening for any superhero movie in China since 2019. And it's the top performing Hollywood movie there this year.
Wow, that's a huge contrast to what we're seeing here in North America. What do you think's driving that difference? Why is China so enthusiastic about Venom while it seems to be kind of fizzling out here?
Well, that's a complex question. It could be a combination of different factors, like when the movie was released in each market, how the film was marketed to different cultures, or even just the overall popularity of superhero movies in different regions. China, for instance, has a rapidly growing film market, and superhero movies have really taken off there.
Yeah.
The cultural appetite for those kinds of action spectacles, along with savvy marketing, tailored to specific tastes, could definitely be contributing to Venom's success in China.
So it's not as simple as just labeling a film a success or a failure then. It sounds like the global box office is more like a puzzle with all these different pieces fitting together in these unique ways.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And to make things even more interesting, let's shift our focus and take a look at what's happening in South Korea.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the story with Venom over there?
Well, Venom. The Last Dance did manage to top the box office charts in South Korea this weekend, but its total gross was significantly lower compared to the previous films in the franchise. And what's even more concerning is that this successful performance happened during a period when the South Korean box office is going through a pretty rough patch.
So Venom is essentially ruling over an empty kingdom. That doesn't sound like a win for anybody.
What it does highlight how interesting the global film market is. Yeah. This wasn't just a slow weekend for Venom in South Korea. It was the slowest weekend of the entire year for their box office. In fact, just to give you some perspective, only one weekend since August has seen total receipts surpass $10 million over there.
Yikes. That's a rough streak. So is Venom the only movie managing to kind of stay afloat in this sea of empty theaters? What about other films that were released in South Korea? Do they give us any clues as to what's going on?
Well, they do paint a clear picture of the market's current state. Take, for instance, The Executioner. This movie actually dominated the box office for a whole month. But what's interesting is it didn't quite achieve blockbuster status in Korea.
Hold on, I'm curious. What determines blockbuster status in South Korea? Is there like some secret formula they use?
It all boils down to ticket sales or more accurately, admissions. Now, the executioner, did manage to pull in a cool $52 million and draw in 7.5 million admissions, which is impressive by any standard. However, in South Korea, a film really needs to hit 10 million admissions to be considered a true blockbuster. It's fascinating, isn't it, how success is measured differently across different markets?
Absolutely. It seems like there's so much more to box office success than meets the eye. Okay, so we've seen Venom crushing it in China, struggling to find its footing here in North America, and basically reigning over this desolate box office landscape in South Korea. So the big question now is Venom, The Last Dance, a success or a failure? I'm starting to think there isn't a simple yes or no answer.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. It's definitely a much more nuanced situation than it might seem at first glance. It's not just about the opening weekend numbers. You have to consider the global market, the production budget, and things like streaming revenue and merchandise. All of that plays a role in whether a film is ultimately considered successful.
Right. So when you factor in all of those additional elements, where do you think that leaves Venom, The Last Dance?
Well, the fact that it's performing on par with its predecessor globally, even with all the challenges we talked about, I think it shows that it's at least holding its own. In what's a really dynamic landscape right now, I mean, the movie industry is going through some pretty major shifts with how people watch movies these days.
Yeah.
And, the growing popularity of all these streaming services.
Yeah. It's like Venom is adapting to a new environment and trying to survive.
I think that's a good way to put it. And the really strong international performance, especially in China, really emphasizes how important it is for these big movies to have a global reach. They can't just rely on one market anymore. Just to give you an idea, Venom, The Last Dance, had a production budget of around $120 million. And based on how it's performing globally, it seems like it's on track to make a profit.
Okay, so after looking at all these different pieces of the puzzle, what's the final verdict? Is Venom, The Last Dance, a success?
I'd say it's a success, but with a few caveats. It's not shattering any box office records. But it's doing pretty well in a really tough market. And I think what's even more important is what its performance tells us about some of these larger trends that go beyond just this one film.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of trends are we talking about?
Well, one of the biggest takeaways for me is the increasing importance of the global market. For these big blockbuster movies, Hollywood can't just rely on domestic audiences anymore to make a film a hit.
Especially with this whole superhero fatigue thing looming over everything.
Exactly. Audiences are becoming more discerning. They want something different. Studios really need to figure out how to keep things fresh and exciting. Venom, The Last Dance, might not be revolutionizing the genre, but its international success definitely shows there's still an audience for these kinds of stories, as long as they're well-made and offer something a little unique.
So what does all of this mean for the future of superhero movies? Are they going the way of the dinosaur? Or is there still hope for our caped crusaders?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I don't think we need to start writing the genre's obituary just yet. But things are definitely changing. Audiences are looking for more than just CGI and explosions. They want stories that resonate, characters they can connect with, a sense of novelty.
It sounds like superhero movies really need to step up their game if they want to stay relevant. They can't just keep rehashing the same old tropes and predictable plots.
I agree. And that's what makes this such a fascinating time for the genre. We're already starting to see some studios experimenting a bit, taking some risks. Films like Joker and The Batman have proven that superhero stories can be, dark, complex, character-driven. They've tapped into a different side of the superhero narrative, exploring things like mental illness, corruption, that blurred line between hero and vigilante. And it seems to be resonating with audiences who are looking for something a little deeper.
Yeah. And you can't forget about the rise of all these superhero TV shows. They're pushing boundaries and exploring new formats as well.
You're right. The lines between film and TV are blurring. And that's creating new avenues for telling these superhero stories in more nuanced ways. A TV series, with its episodic format, allows for deeper exploration of characters and plot lines, which I think can be really appealing to viewers who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed by the sheer number of superhero movies coming out these days.
So maybe it's not the end of the superhero era, but more like a transformation, an evolution into something new.
I think that's a fair assessment. The superhero genre is definitely at a crossroads. And Venom, The Last Dance, with its mix of global success and domestic struggles, I think it perfectly reflects that. It reminds us that the film industry as a whole really needs to adapt, innovate, and most importantly, pay attention to what audiences want.